Greetings, friends. My name is Pavel Stelmach and I'm glad to present for you the new episode of our daily wrap-up series. According to the estimates of the General Staff of the Armed Forces, as of today, 150,000 Russians have already been killed during the war against Ukraine. 150,000 is the population of the Oxford. I would like to note that on February 16th, the number of people killed was 140,000. That is, in 2 weeks, the Russians lost 10,000 of their soldiers and officers, and in general, for January and February, almost 50,000. The mark of 100,000 killed was crossed on December 22nd. At this rate, 300,000 mobilized will be finished in a half a year.
There must be serious losses that would have an effect. I think that this number should increase 2 or 3 times, so that they effectively influence themselves in breaking down the morale and psychological confrontation of the people, and first of all, those mobilized who in the armed force of the Russian Federation and who are at the front. This is facilitated by the effective actions of the defense forces of Ukraine, and here our capabilities will increase.
Of course, the calculation of losses during the war never was easy, and especially in the Russian army, where people in an army have not been concerned for a long time. There are still disputes about how many residents of the Soviet Union were killed during the Second World War. It is difficult to calculate because of the huge number of victims, and also because Moscow hides documents from the time of that war, because the myth of a strong Soviet army can be destroyed. And now the entire Russian military ideology rests on the phrase, "we can repeat." So will the Russians want to repeat again such huge losses among their citizens? Of course, in Russia, the people could turn on logic and calculate that a mobilization of 300,000 cannot be announced with the loss of 6,000 people. Some disproportionate numbers, and this despite the fact that now the Russians are trying to recruit mercenaries almost all over the world. I would like to remind you that information has appeared repeatedly that recruiters are looking for people in African countries, and in Russia they have already gone to jail for the second time with promises of exonerating serious crimes after the end of the war. So it is really impossible to calculate the exact losses now, but it is possible to say with confidence, they are huge.
If Russia does not announce mobilization in the near future, it does not matter what is called it, mini mobilization, partial mobilization 2.0, but it will correspond to the general mobilization and with a repressive element, because in the near future they will need to compensate and mobilize 100,000 personnel every month. That is, if they have not mobilization opportunities to call up 100,000 people for a month, then by June, July, they will completely exhaust their offensive.
And as I understand, we can talk about losses not only killed but also wounded. If we take the standard statistics of the wounded, 1 to 3, then for every 150,000 killed, there should be at least 350,000 wounded. And taking into account information from our soldiers who saw Russian first aid kits on the battlefield, losses are possible as 1 to 5 and even as many as 9. So 600,000 people Russian lost is this war. That's almost the same as the entire population of Luxembourg. Of course, the losses of the Russians greatly increased after the Ukrainians received long-range and high-precision weapons. Even Russian mass media and local occupiers have repeatedly reported on explosions in hotels, barracks and other places where Russian soldiers were stationed. And precisely such blows in the rear, besides increasing the number of killed, undermine the morale of Russians, which is only good for us. Foreign ministers of the G20 and other countries met in New Delhi. The main topics are Russia's war against Ukraine and rising tensions between the United States and China. At the same time, the host of the meeting, India, which currently chairs the G20, is confident that the economic challenges caused by the war will be given the same attention. This year's meeting in New Delhi in particular was attended by Russian Minister Sergei Lavrov, US Secretary of State Antony Blinken, and James Cleverly from Great Britain. China sent its Foreign Minister Qin Gang. In total, representatives of 40 countries, including non-G20 countries invited by India, and various organizations will participate in the event.
You are meeting at a time of deep global divisions. As Foreign Minister, it is but natural that your discussions are affected by the geopolitical tensions of the day. We all have our positions and our perspectives on how this tension should be resolved. However, as the leading economies of the world, we also have a responsibility toward those who are not in this room.
This meeting is very important for India because its attempt to push its agenda, and it will be complicated by the enduring division over the war. Those differences played out in the southern Indian city of Bengaluru last month, when G20 finance chiefs failed to agree on a statement after their meeting. Both Russia and China declined to sign the joint statement, which criticized Moscow's invasion. That left India to issue a chair's summary and outcome document, in which it summed up the 2 days of talks and acknowledged disagreements. Analysts say that throughout the war, New Delhi has deftly balanced its ties to Russia and the West, with Modi emerging as a leader who has been counted by all sides.
We called this time with the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Russia in the room for the withdrawal, the immediate and unconditional withdrawal of the Russian troops within the borders of the Russian Federation. We have also claimed that this war has global effects, economic and social global effects. And of course, Spain is eager to help all the countries that are suffering the security and the energy crisis.
And another important topic for the whole world, which has been discussed in New Delhi, the grain agreement. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken called on Russia to continue the UN-brokered agreement on the export of Ukrainian grain. According to Russian mass media, Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov accused Western countries of having buried the grain agreement. Earlier, Lavrov called the continuation of the agreements taking into account the interests of Russian producers of agricultural products and fertilizers in terms of unhindered access to world markets as a condition. That is, in the next time you hear that Russia protests the world from hunger, you should know not the world, but Russian producers of agricultural products and fertilizers in terms of unhindered access to world markets. By the way, Russia has found new trading partners for itself. The Taliban, which is now in power in Afghanistan, has reached an agreement with Russia to invest in energy, mining and infrastructure, Acting Committee Minister Haji Nurdin Azizi told Reuters. Interaction will be provided through a consortium, which includes 14 Afghan businessmen and companies from Russia, Iran and Pakistan. The ministry signed a memorandum of understanding with them. Now they will send delegates to Kabul to study $1 billion projects. Russia has begun shipping oil, gas and wheat to Afghanistan under an agreement struck last year. Products are transported by road and rail through Central Asia. But despite all this, Moody's predicted a decline in Russian GDP in 2023 by 3%. Such a decline will be primarily due to a reduction in Russian exports of goods under the influence of sanctions.
Each new sanction is a problem for the Russian economy, because the theory of sanctions pressure lies in the tactics of the thousand small cuts in the Russian economy, which leads to the fact that one package may not bring any tangible harm, but the totality of these packages will.
That is, Russia should now look for someone to sell something to. So far, India and China are buying oil, and for everything else, there is its international terrorist organization Taliban. At the same time, even in Russia itself, it is recognized. So with the Taliban, in addition to mining and energy projects, the consortium is considering building a second tunnel through the Salagan Pass, which connects northern Afghanistan with the rest of the country. The Taliban are also interested in diverting water from the northern province of Panjshir to the capital and restoring the main highway connecting Kabul with the western province of Herat. In addition, Azizi added that management intends to develop several long-term business plans. including special economic zones. The Taliban promised to provide security to potential investors. The Taliban said they had already received a delegation of Russian investors in Afghanistan. Russia became the first country to make an international deal with the Taliban after they came to power. In addition, it offered them a discount which made Russian products for Afghanistan cheaper than other suppliers. Moscow pledged to supply about 1 million tons of gasoline and 1 million tons of diesel fuel, as well as 500,000 tons of liquefied petroleum gas and 2 million tons of wheat. That's all you need to know. Russia's trading partners: North Korea, Taliban, Eritrea. How much can Russia earn? Moreover, Russia spent $115 billion a year on the war. This is a third of the all Russian budget revenues for 2021. About $10 billion a month is just the direct cost of the war. This amount does not include economic and indirect losses incurred by Russia due to sanctions and economic isolation. That concludes our today's video. Thank you for watching and stay tuned for future videos. Subscribe to our channel and goodbye.